Boom! What's good, y'all? What is good? Your boy Asta, the boy Asta, just became Wizard King in the manga. I'm not gonna lie, we're about to see how strong Wizard King Asta is. Like this is way spoilers ahead. Like I'm not even gonna lie, if you have not read the manga for Black Clover or even been caught up with Black Clover, do not watch this video because this is basically just everything to do with the manga and everything to see if how strong Wizard King Asta really is. Let's check it out.
Ever since I became a fan of Black Clover in 2018, I always wondered how strong the series would end up being. How powerful would Asta become by the time he made it to the rank of Wizard King? And it has been 2 months since the Black Clover manga ended. I thought I'd finally drop a video discussing the magical brat's incredible power. However, we're supposed to get more content in August, including possible epilogue chapters, and we're getting a guidebook which could add a lot more information. So I will be dropping a far longer and more in-depth video.
Oh, so this is before the guidebook.
But for now, let's move forward. When scaling Asta, it is always hard to find out where exactly to begin, but for the sake of this video, I think it's fair to support at least the basis of his power so we can follow up on it further when he's become the Wizard King. That brings us to start at the Spade Saga, and the introduction to the saga's main villain, the King of Devils, Lucifero. Lucifero is actually trapped in a different dimension, a different universe, that being Hell. But he has a plan to force his way out, at least much faster than originally intended. The 3 Zagrata siblings, including Lucifero's host, Dante,
just by the way, before we even get to like how strong Asta is by the end of Black Clover, if I'm gonna make a prediction. I'm gonna make a prediction before we even like get to the end of the video. I remember that in the Elf arc, what Light was doing was basically dang near like crazy like I was dangerous to say low planetary level type junk. I'm not like a crazy I always just like being invested into like power scaling. I'm not like the best when it comes to power scaling myself, but like it's always just fun to like think about it. But Light was doing so much things different during the Elves arc where I'm like Asta was nowhere near him. Asta was literally nowhere near him. Literally, he wasn't even. I would say Asta didn't even get to him probably until like the Spade Kingdom arc. Probably. But I would say Spade Kingdom arc. You can move Asta to like planetary. I wouldn't say multi-planetary level. I wouldn't say multi-planetary level. But you can move. You can move him to that. And then as the manga kept going, and we get to more arcs, and then we get to the ending, and we get to the not ending, but the main big arc, and the ending. I think I would predict he's probably either high planetary or like low. It's so weird to scale Asta. Like Asta's scaling is
form a
odd.
Ritual to summon the Tree of Qliphoth. The Tree of Qliphoth is a
like,
massive tree that encompasses the entirety
you wouldn't
of the
think a character
underworld
like him is like crazy
layers.
strong, but like he is. He's straight up like Asta's crazy
regularly,
strong.
They are each different space times. It also connects the living universe of Black Clover, the realm where the majority of the story takes place, to the underworld, where Asta's devil and all the other.
And you also gotta count that Dorothy's world.
Well,
yeah, like
Lucifero would do something crazy. He would forcefully
Asta's
fuse
way
the
past
Tree of Qliphoth,
like all that too. Like
and allowing
even,
himself
like,
to break out of the space-time he was trapped in. After fusing with the Qliphoth and manifesting in the living world, he would get stronger and stronger, his power a threat to destroy that very world. If only there wasn't some anti-magic brat standing in his way. By that point, Asta had leveled up. He could not only draw on the anti-magic power of his devil, but he could fuse with it and push it to further heights. For comparison, it is also stated on multiple occasions that Asta, with his devil union, is strong enough to also destroy the Tree of Qliphoth. He just doesn't want to do it because that would lead to Yami and William's death, the 2 characters who were a part of the core of the ritual.
Yep.
What's crazy is that the Lucifero that originally manifests is actually only using a fraction of his magic power at the time. He would actually power up significantly several times over the course of his battles, including just one of those being a more than 2 times increase before he would manifest all of the 50% of his power. As
I
the
love
other
this arc,
50%
bro. This was such a golden arc
after being sliced away by Asta's infinite slash. Eventually, Asta would level up himself, achieving a state of true union with.
I need this to be animated like perfect. Like I don't know what they're cooking up for season two. Really, I seen the trailers and everything. It looks fire, amazing. But I'm gonna need them to like. I need this to be on some Bleach Thousand Year Blood War type animation. Like, oh my goodness, they need to. This needs to be peak, bro.
This devil that would increase his power significantly.
Because
He
it
would be
is
so
peak. It's such a
strong as to
peak
shut off
moment,
his
peak
infinite
fight.
magic power
There's a
completely
Pharaoh versus
just
Asta
by
is like one
touching
of the
him,
best fights
and would
ever.
eventually slice him to ribbons, leading to his defeat. And this is where Asta's true power can finally begin to be measured, despite him still being over 2 years from his promotion to Wizard King. As the cosmology of Black Clover, it's at least somewhat impressive. While the story takes place in the living world, which is the general universe, the databook even refers to the space that Longrest cuts around them as the universe. But what gets really impressive is the underworld and the Tree of Cliffoff. The underworld, otherwise known as Hell, consists of 7 different layers, each with at least one devil that acts as its ruler. We actually know that each individual layer of the underworld is its own space-time, because the 5-headed dragon is stated to warp space-time in order to connect to Hell. That confirms that Hell is a space-time, but what confirms for each layer being a space-time is that if the 5-headed dragon needed to warp space-time to connect to Hell, that would also mean that the gates of the Tree of Cliffoff are twisting or connecting space-time to bridge the layers together. If you have to warp space-time to go to the next layer, that directly implies it to be a space-time as well. This means that when it says Asta can destroy the Tree of Cliffoff, that means that Asta can destroy a tree that is large enough to contain a macrocosm with 7 space-times, making Asta low multiversal. By that same logic, Lucifero fusing with the Cliffoff and then beating Asta initially also scales him to low multiversal. I know you guys are all thinking that this sounds a little bit crazy. I mean, the support is there, but wouldn't this just be an outlier? And my answer would be, absolutely not, as this would be further supported by one of the Magic Knight captains, Dorothy, and her Glamour World. Glamour World first appeared in the previous arc as a space that Dorothy herself creates and is stated to be infinite in size. She even plays with the wording by saying she'll create an infinite, everlasting attack after she says that Glamour World is infinite, showing that she truly means that this is an infinite space after it is stated by Magna and Luck. When it is put into question, she affirms it by saying the impossible is possible in Glamour World. She would then fight an alternate version of herself, and in that fight, their dreams are too powerful for Glamour World to support, and it is utterly destroyed. Not only that, but there are numerous other characters who scale above Glamour World. In the episodes canon to the manga, Yanni destroys it with Dimension/Equinox, which I explained that would be an AP and DC feat in this video, not just hacks. Also, Dorothy believes that the Spade Devil would be too strong to trap inside of Glamour World, which means that she believes the devil could destroy the infinite dimension. Asta, at this point, would dwarf that power. In the manga, Morris, while using 80% of
that's the most interesting part for Asta. Asta's past, like, Asta would, if what Yami did in, like, passing up the devils, like, Asta would easily just cut through Dorothy's theme. Like, that wasn't, that, especially, like, I would not even like end of the Black Clover, like dang near the end of Spade.
Power he borrowed from Lucifero is able to destroy the Glamour World as well. What makes this whole thing even crazier is there's a moment in this series where Dorothy is thinking about how devils are sneaking out of Hell and coming into the living world, as to which she creates the living world inside of Glamour World. This would show not only that Glamour World is universal in size, since it can contain the living universe, but also it acts as more support for low multiversal, as she essentially creates 2 universal-sized spacetimes here. And in Black Clover, when they say this world, they are usually referring to this universe, this dimension, as shown in this chart here, where it differentiates the living world and the underworld, this world and the underworld. But there's actually a lesser known feat that adds massive support for multiversal Black Clover. Remember this moment in the Black Clover movie? Julius seals Conrad at the beginning of the film. Well, the novelization of the film says that what Julius does to trap Conrad is he creates an infinite-sized space. That's right. This space is an infinite dimension of time and space.
What?
And that can also be backed up further because we see that this realm has a starry sky,
What
implying
the
that
heck?
it's multi-solar system in size, but it's also stated to be infinite. Keep in mind that this is 10 years
Just
before the
do
events of the Spade Saga.
Man, Julius is freaking. Oh my goodness, bro.
Roughly 8 years before Asta and Ino get their grimoires. So it's not even the most powerful version of Julius performing this feat. And we'll return to Julius and Lucius later, because it actually leads to a much more interesting power level. If you don't believe the movie is canon, well, it just blatantly is. The movie is referenced in the manga directly by showing the spells of the Wizard King, as well as characters that were only in the movie. And also, I made a whole video on the movie being canon. Just go watch that. I'm not going to explain it more. Furthermore, there's also just numerous statements of characters being stated to have infinite power in Black Clover, which support the universal and multiversal statements. Also, Zenon, who is the host for the Devil of Space, Beelzebub, can create what the raw kanji refers to as a hyperspace. Hyperspaces being possibly higher dimensional spaces comprised of at least 4 or more dimensions. So all of these statements and this feat just provides a lot more support to the multiversal stuff for Black Clover. But again, we have Julius creating infinite space, Dorothy creating an infinite space, multiple characters scaling to that. It's pretty supported by this point. It's not an outlier. The common slights against Asta is that, well, he has anti-magic. So it doesn't really matter if these characters are multiversal or not. He wouldn't scale to it. Only he could negate magic that's multiversal. But if he fought, say, Goku, who doesn't have magic, it wouldn't matter. But this just isn't true. Asta pretty much always scales to the potency of the magic that he nullifies. This is stated very early in the series, just a few chapters after he received his first sword. Asta's anti-magic only nullifies the magic, not the physical force that the magic emits. That means that he has to scale, at least relatively, to whatever he is negating. This is backed up numerous times throughout the series. Asta could not negate Ray of Divine Punishment from Patri, even though he had nullified larger spells before. Because
people have to say Asta's broken is just like, okay.
Than him. This is proven later on when he gets his rematch against Patri and is able to struggle to parry a demon light Ray of Divine Punishment, but he needs Yuno's help to actually push it back. At one point, he even states that his anti-magic isn't strong enough to go against Zagreed, directly proving that his anti-magic has attack potency. And then, when he gets stronger, he can destroy the physical spear that is keeping up with the top tiers of that arc. In fact, even in the final battle of the series, it is shown that Yuno is able to effectively counter anti-magic just by using more of his power to make it strong enough to go against it. If you're still saying that Asta does not scale to his anti-magic negation in the big 2026, then nah, I'm not gonna say it. Also, anti-magic can negate more than just magic. There are multiple power systems in Black Clover, and anti-magic is negated more than just mana. Anti-magic could likely work on other power systems. For example, negative mana is an entirely different kind of power that exists in a different universe in Black Clover. It's Hell. It is its own separate power system used by a different race of creatures. It eventually is able to be used by humans, but in specific cases, and anti-magic can still negate it. There's also curse energy in Black Clover that actually has the same kanji as curse energy from Jujutsu Kaisen. It's different from curse magic, it's curse energy, and Asta can negate it. I don't want to go too in depth at this point. I've talked about this in many other videos. Just want to mention this because I know a lot of comments will. And also, there's just a bunch of feats that Asta has that were done with just raw physical power. No anti-magic involved. Like he punched Raya and sent him flying away like a ragdoll. Raya being someone who was considered captain level at that point in the series. One of his more impressive physical feats is actually in one of the anime episodes that was supervised by the author of Black Clover.
Yeah, Asta's crazy freaking strong.
In this episode, a monster absorbs the power of all the Black Bulls, including Yami, and Asta would rush forward without even pulling out his grimoire and do most of the work in defeating the monster before the others would join in after a bunch of their magic was returned to them. Because this Yami scales above the Dorothy and the Elf saga, Asta would need universal or low multiversal power to do this. He does it in his base with no anti-magic whatsoever. Now, there's a possible feat in Black Clover's final saga by the final villain, Lucius Sagratis. This feat is underlooked because it doesn't necessarily seem like a feat at first glance. After Lucius makes his introduction to the cast, he makes a brief mention that he is able to see tens of thousands of timelines at once. Like I said, at first glance, there's really nothing to scale here, besides arguing that Lucius just has a really good foresight. But once you learn how exactly Lucius and Julius see into the future, it makes you think that they might actually just scale to this. It is stated both in the manga and in multiple databooks that the way that Julius and Lucius are actually able to see the future is they have to make a mana zone. It is in this mana zone where they can sense the mana of the future around them. When you have both the source material and two different databooks stating this is just how an ability works, then it's pretty settled. Lucius and Julius have to make a mana zone to see the future, and they see the future from within that mana zone. Now just think about what that means. If a mana zone is needed to be created in order to see the future, that would necessitate that Lucius, in his base form, created a mana zone the size of tens of thousands of timelines. 20,000 would be a good lowball, and mana zones, they're just spaces that a mage...
That's just... like... Lucius is... That's so crazy, bro. That's just so crazy.
Creates, and thus Lucius would have created a large enough space to contain 20,000 different timelines so that he could actually view them. Creating a space that is the size of 20,000 timelines would put base Lucius into the tier of multiversal. Another point to add is that Mana Zone actually buffs the user by absorbing the mana in the area of the zone. So you can also look at this as Lucius absorbing the mana of 20,000 timelines at once as well. This is something that Lucius would scale to, as it is directly created by his mana and also empowers him. But even if you wanted to try and argue that he didn't scale to it, well, Asta would at least, as it is stated by Ryu, one of the most reliable characters in the series, who can not only see the entire world with his special eyes, but can see into the Shadow Palace, which is a completely different dimension altogether.
That's a
This man
fact.
states
That's
that
a
Asta
fact.
with a Zen can destroy the magic of anyone, and he's comparing that to a Lucius who got objectively much more powerful than the first one who made the Mana Zone. So at the very least, Asta scales to this. This can't even really be considered to be that much of a reach either in terms of power scaling, as Lucius absorbed all 100% of Lucifero's power. A reminder, Lucifero with less than 50% of his power fused with a structure that is larger than 7 spacetimes. Lucius would then get much stronger, as not only does the Qliphoth absorb mana to make him stronger, but also, after absorbing Lucifero, Lucius himself becomes part devil, and devils get stronger in the living world just by breathing in the mana around them and eating it. Furthermore, Lucius would absorb all of the rest of the devils in the underworld, so it wouldn't be that hard to justify getting up to 20,000 universes or timelines worth of power when he would dwarf the Qliphoth multiple times over. A possible critique to this feat would be to say that it's a little crazy to assume that Julius or Lucius could create a space of this size, a space that encompasses 20,000 timelines, but how can you say that when a Julius from the movie, who is much weaker than this Lucius, was able to create an infinite-sized space with his time magic? If he could also create an infinite space, why not create one the size of 20,000 timelines when there's a much more powerful version of him, and it's also just directly implied with the series that he did it. Again, in fact, the gap between this version of Lucius and this version of Julius would actually be many more than 20,000 times anyways. But yeah, Julius can create an infinite space with his time and mana zone, and it's consistent because this version of Julius would dwarf the power of Dorothy, who can create the infinite or even low multiversal size glamour world with her and many other characters that scale below Julius also scaling to that. Lucius, who is Julius's twin and soul brother, shares a body with him. He absorbs 100% of Lucifero's power, who at less than 50% could absorb a low multiversal size tree, a tree that is larger than hell, that is 7 spacetimes.
You know what's so crazy about all this? Asta's just straight up stronger than all of this too. Like by the end of, he's gonna talk about it, but like
all the devils in hell, he gets stronger over the 15-month time skip. At this point, there's just too many cosmic feats in Black Clover to disregard its scaling, in my opinion. It's actually pretty crazy because I remember like 10 years ago when it was blowing my mind that Goku was going to destroy a macrocosm of like 3 to 5 spacetimes. I'm kind of perplexed sitting here thinking that base Lucius might actually just Mog Super Saiyan God Goku in power, and that would just be the raw attack potency. Lucius also has time magic, insane regeneration, along with many other magic types. Who knows, maybe Beerus was dreaming about the wrong god. But it gets really insane when Lucius makes clones of himself, each of them transforming into what is called the Paladin form. This is where he fuses with his devil Astaroth and then purifies that devil power into a higher level of power, sacred power. We see that simply borrowing a devil's power allows you to increase your power by over 100 times, just based on how we see Dante's power as proven by the chart with Soul Chain Deathmatch against Magna. Union would be a far superior form to just borrowing devil power via a contract, so it's actually safe to lowball. Paladin Lucius is 100 times stronger than his base. And the scaling just goes insane when Asta returns from his training, is able to scrap with Paladin Lucius, even though Asta's just in his base. And then he can fight multiple at the same time with his black form, which is only his 4th strongest transformation. In fact, just before this, Asta learned the ability to share his anti-magic with his friends, and took a portion of his power and split it up amongst the 12 of the Black Bulls present, making each of them all strong enough to be at least relative to a Paladin Lucius clone. That would mean that Asta is at least 12 times stronger than these clones, possibly in just his base form. And as I've mentioned before, Devil Union can be considered to be at least a 100 times multiplier, and that is consistent for Asta too, because it's actually implied to be stronger than the Zeton multiplier. While the official manga says it's a 100 times multiplier for Zeton, it is actually stated to be many dozens of times in the actual Japanese kanji. But it's actually kind of checks out anyways, because that was stated by Asta when he saw Chika perform this feat, when she actually splits up the Zeton into 4 different strikes. Dozens is at least 24. Multiply that by 4 for the strikes, and that's 96. So it makes sense that the 100
I
times
love
double union
Zetin, bro. That's such
multiplier,
a
it's actually pretty
unique type
consistent.
of
So when Asta goes Union, he gets 100 times more
thing that they ever
powerful, and then
created
you
in
can
Black
go Zetin
Clover.
himself on top of that for another 96 times multiplier. To put it simply, Asta and Yuno are canonically stronger than Lucius, as even when he made an ultimate combo spell where he combined all of his many thousands of magics into a single spell, he knew it would not be strong enough to kill Asta or Yuno. And that's before they transformed into their final forms, True Devil Union and True Spirit Dive, which can be calculated to be at least a 2 times multiplier as well, above Union. As to which, after this point, Lucius knew his only way to win was to run away and let the timers on their forms run out. There would then be a 6-month time skip where Asta and Yuno would fight to decide the Wizard King. And at one point in this fight, base Asta is able to crack and just...
This is literally one of the biggest feats I've ever seen out of Black Clover. The fact that base Asta did a singular punch to Yuno's final form. Mentioned, this is the same form. Same form. It'd be Dane in the last bit with Asta.
Destroy True Spirit Dive Yuno's Notice Shield, something that Lucius at the peak of his power could not do 6 months prior. And that was when Yuno wasn't even in his True Spirit Dive yet. So you could argue that actually base Asta 6 months after the Lucius fight is more than 2 times powerful than the peak of his powers back then, at least without Zetin. Wizard King Asta at the end of the series is 2 years later, and his power is actually just unquantifiable, really. Hopefully the data book or the epilogue chapters, if there are any, do explore his power more, but that's my thoughts on how strong Wizard King Asta is. As I said, there are too many cosmological feats in Black Clover now to disregard. It's at least universal, and in my opinion, multiversal is pretty well supported now. I do want to give credit to Lay and Dead Meme, 2 people in my Discord who've helped me scale Black Clover.
Fire video, absolutely fire video.
Over the years, and they have kind of slowly convinced me over the years of Black Clover being in the multiversal tiers of power. With that being said, please let me know what you guys think of the video down below. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys did enjoy.
Fire video, bro. Fire video. Yeah, Wizard King Asta, you can really say, he's up there. He's up there for one of the strongest anime characters. It's just that you don't. It's so weird saying that for Asta. I don't know if it's for me, but like it's. I didn't think of Black Clover as like this crazy powerhouse until until the end of the Elf arc, and then even then I was like, okay, let me think. Let me start to like read the manga and everything like that. So I read the Fairy Kingdom arc and everything for Black Clover from start to ending. And like this dude Asta straight up is broken. Like he's crazy strong and broken. I don't know where I would still rank him, but like Universal is not out of the realm. That's all I'm gonna say. It's definitely not out of the realm. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Great video. We out here. Peace.